Okay, I think we should get started now. So, if everyone wants to introduce themselves to start, John, I think we should start with you as our wonderful presenter today. That would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I'm John Hodge. I'm based in the UK and I'm a Rotarian. And I was actually a deputy head teacher, or I guess what you call in the States, a vice principal until I retired. And since retirement, I've put a lot of energy into Rotary and particularly prosthetics in high schools. Working with students over in the UK, sort of 11 to 18-year-olds. So that's me.
Thanks, John. And Jared, you're next on my screen. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is my first meeting. I'm a professor at Arizona State University in the US, and I'm a director of our program called EPICS, Engineering Projects in Community Service, and I'm excited to learn more and have some of my students potentially work on some projects or collaborate with people. I do have to teach here kind of soon, but I'm going to jump back on at 10:30, or I guess it depends on your time zone, in about 20 minutes.
Thanks, Jared. Elizabeth?
Yes, hi, my name's Elizabeth Payton. I am a doctor of physical therapy. This is my first time participating in the meeting, and I'm interested in marine mammal prosthetics and orthotics and various other things. But I'm very happy and grateful to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, how about you?
So I will turn on the camera real quickly. I'm Michelle Poschner. I'm from Bavaria, so I'm not that good in English, but I hope it will work. I'm an engineering student at the moment, and I'm very interested in prosthetics and this kind of stuff. So I work in the labor for additive manufacturing at the moment, and we came across the e-NABLE community, and I hope I can learn something more. So this is my first meeting here as well. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. And for new members, I am just going to drop my email address in the chat. If you have any questions about how to get started or different connections, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And then Tamara and John, if you would like to introduce yourselves or add anything.
Sure, happy to. Hello. Nice to see everybody here. I'm John Schell, co-founder of e-NABLE. In a past life, I was a biological psychologist doing research on metacognition in dolphins. So I'm amused to find a convergence with marine mammals. Happy to be here.
I'll go next, I guess. I'm in Vancouver, BC, up in Canada. I just retired and started finding out about e-NABLE last month, so I'm pretty new. And I'm part of a maker community that was the group, the Vancouver X-Space people told me about e-NABLE, and I'm just here to learn.
Great, thank you. And I just got a message from Ian. He's running a little late and he is on his way. So with that, let's just go ahead and get started. And John, I am going to make you a co-host and turn it over to you. So
Okay, so I guess I just share my screen here.
Yeah.
I'll find the right one. just got so many tabs open. Yeah, it should go. And everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, good. Okay, splendid. Okay, so thank you very much to e-NABLE for inviting me to do this short presentation. And I sort of dropped into a previous meeting, and the next minute I was offered a speaker slot, so it was quite in at the deep end. But I thought it'd be good to share what we've been doing over in the UK and in collaboration with schools and Rotary clubs in the US. So here goes. The opening slide sort of sums it up, and I'll explain a little bit about it. Sarah sort of advised around about 15 minutes, and then I'll take any questions and answers, and we can go from there. Okay, this is me. I sort of mentioned it briefly in my introduction there. That's me in a shopping centre, sort of with a prosthetic hand, a phoenix hand from e-NABLE, and explaining about the prosthetics and what they do. And this was during a promotional event and for the Rotary Club, as I say, in a shopping centre. And on the left is a little bit about me. The purpose of the presentation, really, as it says on the screen, bit of a summary about Interact Prosthetic Partnership, then some question and answers, then hopefully what I'd like to do is sort of develop the links with e-NABLE, because both Rotary and e-NABLE are worldwide organizations, and I think we can benefit from collaboration there. So moving on, I just hinted at this really, that Rotary clubs are all over the world, Rotary International, and I took the screenshot from e-NABLE's site there, and you've got lots of chapters, again, all over the world. So it really makes sense to sort of collaborate here as two sort of fellow humanitarian organizations looking to benefit not just the students that are taking part, because they hopefully will learn and actually develop and move on into STEM related industries, but also the actual clients themselves, the people who need the prosthetics, who often can't afford high level prosthetics, and it gives us an opportunity to collaborate, as I say, as two humanitarian organizations. Just a little bit about, I'm not quite sure if people are familiar with what Rotary is, or you've probably heard the name and have got sort of perceptions of what Rotary does. Generally, if you go around the world, you'll see sort of evidence of Rotary in action doing various activities. But this is a sort of a slide that shows the Rotary family. And those guys down at the bottom, the Rotary kids, are generally sort of 5 to 11-year-olds who will participate in a like a mini Rotary club within a school group of that age. And then what we're focusing on today really is Interact, and these are officially 12 to 18-year-olds, but different sort of school systems around the world have different setups with high schools and secondary and so on. So Interact, we tend to operate as 11 to 18-year-olds over in the UK. I'll be coming back to that during my presentation. And then Rotaract is generally for 18 plus members that sort of leave Interact and go into the world of work or higher education. And there used to be a 30 limit on that, but really there's no top age group on that. It's just a group of fellow like-minded people of a particular age group. And then they tend to generally sort of then move on to Rotary, which tends to be more sort of older generation, but you know, my club, we've sort of got a new member hoping to join. She's only 22, so there's there's no sort of age limit. Age is just a number as far as Rotary is concerned, and it's what you can actually put into the organization is more the value there. So moving on a little bit more about Rotary. It's got 7 areas of focus, which you can see on the screen. And the presentation today will really focus on the community and economic development. And that's, as I've hinted already, sort of providing high-level jobs in STEM-related industries or leading students to those levels of those areas of employment, and working with businesses in order to, I guess, talent spot, and we call them over in the UK apprentices. They might not go to university, they might go straight into work from 16 or 18, they might go straight into work into a business and do some sort of an apprenticeship there, and learn on the job, I guess, is more the message there. Or they can go down the academic route and perhaps go into the STEM related industries once they've completed their degrees or masters and so on. So the economic development there. The disease prevention and treatment, well, it's not, the providing prosthetics is not exactly, doesn't exactly fit into that area, but it's a broad area of health. Those are the sort of the 2 areas of focuses, if you like. But there are links with the likes of environment, because we use 3D printing and reducing waste of material and so on is an important environmental factor. So it's not strictly the 2 areas, but that gives you a flavor of what Rotary is about. And people can sort of take their own interests. You know, they might be particularly interested in peace building and so on, and conflict prevention. And they might well, specialize in that area with other like-minded people. So really, it's that gives you a flavor of Rotary if you're not familiar with it. So moving on to what the presentation here is about, the partnership that we've currently got. I mentioned in the introduction, we've got sort of UK and US schools, Rotary clubs, and Rotary is divided into districts across the world. And for example, Louth Rotary is in a particular one of 24 districts in Britain and Ireland. And Georgia itself, as you can see on there, is actually divided into 3 Rotary districts. And we've particularly been working with a couple of those districts. And perhaps the actual clubs themselves there, as you can see listed. So that gives you a flavour of the sort of the scale of what we're doing so far. And we have developed this through COVID and through the COVID recovery. We've been meeting online and so on, and things have been moving through there with all the pandemic restrictions and everything. So it's a bit slower than it would normally be, but that's just we've all been in the same position. So moving on from there, I'd like to just focus on what we've done in King Edward VI Grammar School, or we sort of known as Kevigs, the students and the staff, and the locals all call it Kevigs. It's got quite a history. First started teaching in the 1500s. It's got quite a big, as I say, an extensive history. But the students, we focus on working with students that are actually interested in maths, in the STEM subjects, basically. And Rotary itself, Louth Rotary, has got over a 40-year history of working with Georgia Rotarians, because we send students to a Georgia scholarship program that all the Georgia Rotary clubs support. And the students, we've got 2 out there now, they come out to Georgia and study in the US academic year between sort of August and May. And they do a course that might be linked to the university that they're going to study back in the UK, but it might be something completely different. So it gives them experience of studying out in the US and meeting up with Georgia Rotarians and families and so on. And it's an international project, but that's a presentation in itself. Well, that gives you a flavour of Louth Rotary's history of working with Georgia. And you can see there the Rotary Club, Canton Rotary Club and Sequoia High that were linked to Canton. That's where it started. So what Canton Rotary did, they sort of introduced us to Sequoia and their robotics club, and they we started off with the e-NABLE's Phoenix hand as a learning tool, and you can see that second photograph from the left there. That Sequoia High printed all those off using their 3D printers and shipped them over, kindly supported by Canton Rotary, shipped them over to the UK, and we used visual aids like the e-NABLE visual aid that's on the screen there to actually teach the students how the hands worked and how they pull together. And then the students on the right got into Tinkercad and they started sort of learning how to use that, so that when it came to working with real clients, they'd be able to size and change the actual sizes of the hand depending on the clients. Moving on from that, Louth Rotary supported the purchase of a MakerBot printer, and you can see on the left there, the bottom left, they're setting that up there, and then they moved towards producing evidence for for KEVIGS to receive accreditation from e-NABLE. We actually found our own client, so we didn't have to, we weren't pressed to do the actual accreditation, but we actually produced the evidence and submitted some of that evidence that we can actually we're capable of doing the 3D printing, producing the hand, and actually helping clients. So that's where we've got to there with KEVIGS. So the green indicates what I've just talked about, but going on to Sonoya Rotary and St Mary's Academy and the other two listed in the UK there, this is now, if you like, phase 2 of the situation. But before that, the green partners up at the top there were linked to the Centre of Handicapped in Sri Lanka, and a lot of people there within that centre suffered from the Tamil Tigers sort of conflict, and we focused on actually providing, we're going to focus on providing hands for those particular clients, if you like, but they also were involved in a lot of sort of leg replacement, hips, casts, and so on, perhaps more mechanical aspects. So we've got that good link there with the Centre of Handicapped in Sri Lanka, and we have regular meetings, but it's 10 o'clock US, it's 3 p.m. UK, and it's 8:30 in the evening in Sri Lanka. So we managed to sort of have a meeting time that fits just about to everybody there. So that's where we're going. What's next for KEVIGS, the school in the UK, obviously get new cohorts in every year. So we're going to train them up using the Phoenix hand model, a basic model, so that the students learn what the actual prosthetic is about and get a feel of that. We've got a product out in Sri Lanka at the moment under test with an adult, and so we're hoping to get some feedback there. We've also got we found another client, sort of a young daughter, I think she's about 5 or 6, of a physiotherapist in our town, and we want to formalize the e-NABLE accreditation, and we want to provide sort of further hands for the Handicap Centre. The Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Engineering College is quite a long-winded title they've got there of the school, but we call it OLQP. And what we want to do, we want to actually follow the pattern that we use with Canton Rotary, and we actually we want to do the similar thing to bring them on board. They're only just starting. We've not met with the students yet, but they've been sort of dropping into our meetings throughout last year, so they're coming online. And St Mary's Academy there, will be supporting with an interesting profile of that particular school. They've got a lot of Ukrainian refugees. And there's a lot of sort of people in Ukraine that have been injured through war-related activities. And therefore, what we'd like to do there is network. There's been quite a growth of Rotary in Ukraine since the start of the war. And therefore, we'd like to actually serve those particular people that need the prosthetics. So KEVIX will carry on focusing with the Centre for Handicapped in Sri Lanka, but the new school that's coming online will actually take the Ukrainian angle, simply because there's quite a lot of the students in the school that can relate to the tragic situation over there in Ukraine. So that's where we're at. What next for the overall partnership? Well, there's sort of 4 headlines there, really. I mentioned earlier we have monthly meetings, and we get partners to represent people. People have to dive in and out. School timetables you can't get them always sort of sinking, but people dive in. We use email to keep up to date and so on. So we've got one due next week. And then St Mary's Academy are sort of bringing a Sonoya Rotary Club, which is quite a new club. They're going to sponsor an Interact club in the school. And a reminder, the Interact clubs are like Rotary clubs, but within the school. KEVIX have 2. They have one, what you call a standard Rotary club, and then they have another one that's actually focusing on prosthetics. So students that are more interested in STEM-related industries. And e-NABLE also are in dialogue with Brent over at St Mary's Academy there in terms of mapping the curriculum across the US states. So that's something that he's been taking on board. We've got all change at Sequoia. There's been some, as what happens, got new staff coming in. So we've been introduced to those through Canton Rotary, and we hope to meet those next week. And bottom line there, sort of connect with e-NABLE, as I mentioned earlier, 2 humanitarian organizations that I feel can work together. So that's about it. I don't know if I think I've done my slot, but thank you, Sarah, for that. And it's over to anybody who might have any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I exit
Well,
Shall I stop sharing, or?
You may as well stop sharing.
Yeah.
I have some questions. I hope other
Yeah,
people
sure.
will jump in also.
Okay.
So first of all, thank you so much. That was quite helpful and enlightening, understanding the multi-layer structure and the parallel connections you have going on between England and Georgia and Sri Lanka and potentially Ukraine. As I understand it, you've connected several different schools, several different classes, and connected with just a small handful of actual recipients. Is that right, or did I miss that?
Yeah, we did have, there was a previous recipient that I didn't mention, but there was a chap in Northern India that we produced. And in fact, Sequoia took the lead on that at the time. So it is only a small, but what we're trying to do is give the students the sort of real clients to talk to and actually make the hand for, so to help them with, if you like, customer relations that they might be involved in their in their careers.
So this is as an educational program with a humanitarian bent. This is just terrific. It's a no-brainer. We have many schools in e-NABLE and many of them have students and want programs they can plug into. And it sounds like you have curricula. You're doing the diligent job of sort of thinking about educational standards and how to plug into them. If you can sort of create an on-ramp for school chapters, we should definitely connect them. And I think the notion of partnering with Rotary clubs is also just terrific. I think you've got a wonderful template. And if you can help us figure out how to get more chapters engaged with your network and their local Rotary, I think there would be great interest. But it's going to take, you're going to have to build the on-ramp. Now you can recruit help from our volunteers in making the on-ramp, but it won't just happen spontaneously. What you've managed to pull together is quite remarkable and doesn't happen by accident.
Certainly
So
does not.
that's right. That's right.
And you throw COVID in, and you've got a mix there, you know.
That's right. That's right. The second thing I'll say is that the potential of partnering with the clinic in Sri Lanka, clinics in Ukraine, and so on, possibly, well, that's of course the holy grail that is really challenging for us. I don't see that you've cracked that code yet, but I can see that you may be well on the way to do that. And as soon as you think you know how we can begin scaling that up, let us know. We might be able to support it. We certainly have people who'd like to be a part of it.
Good. Yeah, I mean, yes, we are only small scale at the moment. We are only working with a small number of clients. But for example, the client in Sri Lanka, we were going, Sonoya or St. Mary's are actually shipping their version out this week. They've already got the Kevin's version, and Sequoia, there've been a few staff changes, but these things happen. So
Sure.
The idea is that we give the client 3 different variations of hands, so they can provide feedback to those 3 schools and those, you know, so and then you're not necessarily going to get the hand perfect first time, you know, and it's a development process. So it's all valuable stuff for the kids to actually learn about. So, yeah.
I think it's great. I think you're proceeding in exactly the right way. I'm afraid I can't think of much to contribute to the conversation except to say I really like what you're doing, and I hope you will make it more likely that other schools and Rotarian groups will get connected to the network you've already created. I think it'll probably happen one by one, and I think that's the right way.
Yeah.
I wonder if our other people have any questions or comments for you.
Can I ask, this super inspiring, the dots you've connected and how global it is. I'm wondering questions about like hardware, software. Like I'd be really interested in which designs you're finding the most useful to start with, which printers you're using, and what your software workflow is as you adapt those to individuals. Because I think those are some of the big accessibility questions that are the barriers to onboarding.
Yeah, I mentioned in the presentation the MakerBot replica, I think it is. I can't remember the actual brand of it, but or the level of it, but it's quite high level for the school setting. So we Rotary sort of funded that with the school, and the school have agreed to sort of fund the ongoing consumables. So Rotary's, if you like, provided the initial start and got going on that. The other school that's coming online has not got MakerBot and has had quite a bit of trouble with their printers, largely associated with staffing levels and time to put into looking after them and developing them. But we've met with the head of engineering and one of the technicians, and they are really on board. So that's where we're at. We started following Sequoia and Canton's advice. We started with the Phoenix because although it's now quite dated, it is tried and tested in terms of the file. So it was good to use that, particularly with Kevix, to get the printer set up, to run the actual printer and actually create the hands, multiple hands, so that the kids can come in and have a go at their hand, in terms of putting it together, and that's all helped with learning. So those are but things like the STI file, all what you guys in e-NABLE have developed and shared is quite inspiring, because you're all sort of like-minded people. You all want to actually, you're also trying to do good in the world, if you like, is a rotary phrase, but you're actually trying to use your skills and expertise to provide items that we've not just got blank sheets of paper, that we can always start with them. And I mentioned the sizing and everything like that. So it really, and the Thingiverse, and MakerBot sort of buying into this, it was all sort of makes sense. So it's where we're at. We're only relatively, you guys have probably been at this for years, but we've not been sort of involved that long. And it's nice now out of as I've mentioned, the COVID period, now it's out of that. So all the limitations are sort of are not there. Anyway, that's where we're at.
And that highlights the importance of the curation work that Ian is undertaking with the NIH 3D file exchange, which I trust you're aware of.
What, sorry?
You should be aware that Ian Roy is working. Ian can tell you. Go ahead, Ian.
Sure. So we're just trying to revamp some of the NIH's 3D print exchange catalog around prostheses. We know that the wiki is comprehensive and vast, and there's a lot of content that's hard to navigate. So we're looking for an easier, lower barrier entry point to navigate significant designs. NIH's 3D print exchange became a big clearinghouse for PPE manufacturing during COVID. They have a lot of molecules up there and lab equipment. And so we're trying to curate a prostheses section and maybe later an assistive devices section broadly. Yes. But that'll highlight those top designs and then not recreate anything, but link out and make a hierarchy of how to get started, top 5 recommended stuff, and then everything else below it. And then link to all those community resources. And I think the power of e-NABLE globally has been the open source hardware, how it evolves and adapts. But it also means that if you're trying to get into it in the classroom, especially, there's a lot to navigate to find the useful stuff.
Yeah. Both the schools that were involved in the UK are doing this project as a sort of an add-on, if you like. It's not embedded in the curriculum, but that's something that Brent over at St. Mary's was talking about at the last meeting in terms of cross-state curriculum mapping, particularly in the States.
I think he's got a way to get to a curriculum that hits state standards that could be built and shared. Yeah. And we're more than trying to organize some of the content that groups like that could point to and pick up.
Yeah. I think that's, we're quite happy for Brent and the US to lead on that. We really need to embed what we're doing first. But I can see it makes sense because all the time the academia are looking for practical examples of applications of the theory that they're learning through, likes of math and science. Yeah,
absolutely. No, and I think there's so many technical challenges along that workflow, from the designs, the fabrication, adapting them, the software competencies, the hardware the material science, and then all the way up to dealing with a client, real people in the classroom. And we've seen a couple of even K-12 groups do amazing work in this. And I think the community is ready to have a template that's we can have those examples help a lot of us figure out ways to do similar stuff.
Yeah, well, to a certain extent, what we did with Canton, as I mentioned in the presentation, what we did with Canton and Sequoia, it worked. It was very protracted because of the pandemic, but now we're just going to use that model to actually help the new school come online. And the students initially the students in Canton, in Sequoia, were getting involved and helping with this process, and they were quite happy to lead it with the help of the teachers, but it was good for them to be leading something like that while they're still in high school. And what's happened now with Kevigs is one of the students, who we call them sort of head girl, head boys and that type of thing, in the UK, but the deputy head girl is actually leading the prosthetics. And has offered to help the students in the next school, and have that direct email contact with the other school. So it's called, we call it, it's like student-led curriculum or student-led activities. So the students really feel they own those activities and are skilled up in order to actually run them. And the success of it is if the teacher can sit back and just be there to advise if need be, once the students have got those skill sets. Yeah.
It's perfect, John. You know, besides cheering you on and making this video available, is there anything else we can do to help you do what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think Brent over at St Mary's is pretty connected with e-NABLE. He's sort of been helping you guys sort of get this curriculum thinking, and has been helping with the development. I've seen your development of your website and things like that in terms of the material on there. So, you know, what we really need now is to sort of, I think Ian's point about navigating around the site and actually accessing at the different levels, you know, it is important for you guys to be sort of working in the background on, I guess, so that when the students are ready, they can sort of progress up that ladder and develop different skills. But as far as the two schools are concerned, the centre accreditation, you know, from the chapters, which I guess would come through UK chapters. I think there's only 2 in the UK, but I might be wrong. But we need to sort of connect with them, so that they, you know, we've got a sort of a bit of a local context.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know how to find those chapters using the map that we have at map.enable.org. We are perennially talking about consolidating and streamlining our various web environments. It's a big job, and we're trying to pull together the human and financial resources to do it. I will say that if your program develops, we might create yet another view that is really designed to be just what you need. We've got lots and lots of resources, and frankly, it's easier to create a side entrance than it is to remodel the whole house, if you can follow the metaphor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So we're open to that, but we'll need your guidance on that.
Yeah, I mean, Rotary International has been through this process as well, because a lot of their resources, particularly their brand center, was receiving quite a bit of criticism that how do you find what you want to find, you know, and navigation through it. And they put quite a lot of funding into actually revamping their, as I say, particularly their brand center, because they're quite protective of their brand. I mean, you know, the Rotary brand has got a good worldwide reputation. Yeah. So yeah.
You know, it's a good point, and that's frankly one of the reasons we haven't cracked the Rotary code before. What I like about what you've done is that you're giving us, you know, a keyhole view of a particular way of accessing what's relevant to us. And so we might try to reciprocate by giving you a keyhole view of what you really know about e-NABLE, what you really need to know about e-NABLE as required. Yeah. So we're open to proposals, including possibly getting support from a Rotary or some third party in order to finance this sort of focused effort.
Yeah. Well, certainly the two clubs in Georgia are very, very connected, and they actually, and it's the same in Sri Lanka. One of the Rotary clubs there sponsor a lot of interact clubs, you know, so there is sort of potential across different areas, because that's how it works. And it also brings, from Rotary's point of view, it gets the message out about then as an organization, and gets the kids involved, and they progress into adulthood, and they then sort of keep Rotary going, and that's important. So yeah,
Agreed.
I totally agree. And if you can get young people involved in nonprofits early,
Mhm.
definitely biases them for their whole career for a different perspective.
yeah. And so I think personally, I'm sort of subscribed to your newsletter, and you've got sort of events in the town hall events and various things. I really sort of just need to sort of perhaps dive into one or two of those and just be a fly on the wall and just see what's happening. I did dive into one. I think it was a couple of years ago, and it was particularly, I think it was centered in Chile, and they were sort of sharing some of the development that they were doing. It was just quite interesting just to hear about the diversity within e-NABLE. So, but what we did do at Sequoia, which is slightly lost its sort of angle, but one of the students was a lead student, and she then went on to study engineering, and then we remained still connected with that student when they were at university. And that's what we want to do with the Our Lady Queen of Peace School, because they finish at 16. But when those students then move on to college or into a work environment, we'd like to sort of and also connect. We've got a well-known sort of Japanese-owned automotive parts manufacturer within the area. And we've got their European headquarters a stone's throw from the school, and the school are really excited about going in and sort of playing with their 3D printers, because there's just another world. So there's that aspect as well. That it's all a lot of potential, I think. But the priority at the moment is to get the next school in the UK moving, from our sort of quite blinkered, so I guess you'd say, but equally they still remain connected with the schools and the Rotary clubs in the US.
Absolutely. John, I will observe that your mindset seems to be, I'm doing this thing with Rotary. You all are doing this thing with e-NABLE. I just want to point out that there is, you are e-NABLE. You're doing some of the best work we have. We are not a we don't have a top-heavy leadership. We have a top-light leadership. And that means that people like you are really invited to figure out what you think we should be doing. You'll find we are easy to persuade when we've got a proposition. And when I say we, I don't mean the leadership. I mean the community will say, what the hell, go for it. How can we help? So I just want you to recognize that you are part of the e-NABLE leadership, and we need to be led, because we absolutely, I think it's just obvious that you're doing what needs to be done, and we need to do more of it. So we're at your service, and you should recognize that you need to be at our service.
Yeah. It's really nice to know. It's always good to know you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Elizabeth, Jared, Tamara, I wonder if you want to say anything before we close.
I'm good. That was very informative, and it was exciting to see what kind of potential there is for that.
Thank you. You're on mute, Elizabeth. Your lips are moving, and yes.
Can you hear me now, John? Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. It sounds exciting. As a new member, it's somewhat mind-blowing to think that of all the connections that are being created, and it's also fantastic knowing that we're leadership light up there on the very top, on the very top. I think it's, I'm so excited to be in the community. So anyway, thank you for that. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Do any of you have any questions for John or Ian as first time meeting attendees and newcomers? This is also if you want to share about something that you're working on and ask about it here at the end, this would be a time to do that too.
Sarah, this is Elizabeth, and if I could take a minute just to tell everyone what I'm working on right now. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm working currently, I'm looking for help. I work with aquariums and veterinarians around the country, and we have a number of patients around the country and in the US Virgin Islands. They're sea lions that have terrible arthritis in their shoulders, and now it's starting to affect their functional mobility and their quality of life. And so what I'm trying to do is develop some adaptive equipment, maybe some orthotic type of braces to redistribute the joint forces through the shoulder joints of these animals. With the sea lions, their joints are comparatively similar to our hips, if you will. And so this is a new frontier for me. I'm trying to help out and give these guys a better quality of life. As a physical therapist, I do that for people, but I really want to help out the animal community as well. And so I'm looking for help with that. And I would love to speak with anyone who has interest or who has experience creating animal prosthetics or orthotics, or anyone interested in creating adaptive equipment, therapeutic equipment. So that's my.
I love the idea. Has anyone done this for seals and sea lions previously in the world that you know of?
I mean, not that I'm aware of, but I'm not highly connected at all.
It'll be in the news if you Google it and go to Google News.
Yeah.
I have a vague feeling that I may have seen one case, although it might have been a previous post by you, but I would start there.
Okay.
So that's step one. That's a first step. Another first step is, have we had arthritic sea lions and seals all these years and we just didn't know it? Is this something they're prone to?
It is, just like people. As we age, we have age-related changes within our joints and muscles. And these marine mammals also experience that type of aging. I'm sorry, I have all my 5 dogs out here on the porch with me. My apologies.
That's all right.
But a lot of the aquariums and the zoos, they particularly develop habitats that are good for these animals in their younger years. But as they age, they don't have the ability to maneuver themselves like they did. Just like when we were 20, we don't have the ability to move quite as well as we did when we were 20, now that I'm almost approaching 50. So, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and it only becomes apparent when they start to have pain. And what I'd like to do is educate the aquariums, educate people, educate veterinarians and exotic animal caregivers. I mean, the people that take care of these animals are extraordinary. They care so much, but they're limited as to the different things that they can do, because it's such it's not addressed until usually it's too late. And in these cases, this sea lion is 800 pounds. So if anyone is a scuba diver in the community, just getting out of the water with your tanks on is an effort. So imagine a sea lion, 800 pounds, trying to move his body from water to land, and the forces that animal has to overcome. So
Yeah.
this is totally new ground. I did my research for my doctoral degree with dolphins in the US Navy and doing manual techniques. So I'm not a stranger to this, but this would be my first sea lion case.
This
And
is great.
it's something.
I'd love to talk more about if we had some students that might be able to help with some of this.
That'd be great, Ian. That'd be great.
Would you like to share your email address in the meeting chat so that we can reach you?
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and do that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also,
You know, I have a hunch that a place to begin would just be to work out a harness, some way of attaching, wrapping around the seal and its shoulders that it will tolerate. That's probably not a 3D printing challenge. That's a neoprene challenge.
right.
Figuring that out would probably provide a beginning insight into what kind of infrastructure you want, and then what more you might want to do.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And
Yes,
that's said with absolutely no professional expertise, but it's my hunch.
It's a good hunch. It's an excellent hunch. And, you know, these, particularly with sea lions, they're quadruped animals, meaning they have front limbs and back limbs, and therefore they can get to those limbs, whereas a dolphin is more of a streamlined animal. It cannot get to things. So the comfort and the ability to put a harness on a sea lion is actually quite challenging because they're very sensitive to different types of materials. Right. Neoprene is the best material that we have, but of course we have to consider with all prosthetics.
Now, you know, I believe that militaries around the world have built hefty harnesses for marine mammals in order to strap either mines or surveillance equipment onto them. Those people might be really happy to be doing something that's actually good for the animals. And so you might reach out to them through your former connections.
Right. That's an excellent idea. I'll definitely look into that as well. Originally, this, for the United States Navy, this particular dolphin out in San Diego was injured by breaching onto a retrieval boat. And so just finding ways to, and this actual dolphin became disabled because of that, because of a fractured pectoral fin. So, you know, there's gotta be better ways. These animals are precious. There's got to be better ways to keep them safe. Even a simple squeeze cage at a zoo can injure animals and does injure animals, despite the amount of care people try to take. So there's a lot of area for expansion and application. So let me put my email in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, everyone. I have another call I need to go to, but John and everybody else, thank you so much. John, we await your guidance.
Yeah. Can I just ask about if I wanted to share this this Zoom call? Is that, how do I navigate to that? Can Sarah sort of
yes,
navigate me to that?
John, I will post a link to the recording on the hub, and I can also email it directly to you.
That would be really helpful, yeah.
And I just see that Jared, before we close, has left a comment and his email address for everyone in the chat. So.
Well, that's right. You should touch base with Jared, John. He's in London, and he has a lot to offer. Thank you, Jared.
Yep, happy to continue the conversation. Sadly, I just couldn't really join the meeting today.
That's all right. Did we get your email, Jared?
Yes, I put it in the chat.
Excellent.
And
okay,
Jared, I'd love to talk more. I think we do a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, it'd be great to chat and see how we can collaborate together and have students do fun stuff.
Absolutely.
So please follow up and then give us an update. Good.